This is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Correllian tradition, and this is Midday with Reverend Don. And today our guest is Krys Copeland from Correllian Publishing.
Hi, Reverend Don. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming. And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can ask questions or make comments on whatever platform you're watching on. We want to say hello to Mary Cavalcante in the chat room. And usually I have the chat room on the screen, but when I have a guest, we don't really have room for that. But we will certainly say hello and interact with everyone in the chat room because we love our viewers. Before we start, I do want to say for people who have expressed concern about the future of Midday with Reverend Don, it will be continuing. It will continue on Magic TV, which is being renamed Correllian TV. And
hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom. It's good to see you, Tom. And so have no fear. Midday with Reverend Don apparently will be continuing. And I want to thank everyone who expressed the desire for that. So, Krys, what's going on in the world of Correllian Publishing?
Well, we have quite a few new ebooks out this week. We've taken the main collection that we have. I'll go ahead and share my screen here with y'all so you can take a look with me. As you can see on the screen here, we have the lessons for the first degree, but it's the introduction in lesson 1 magic e-booklet. It's listed as 95 cents in euros here, but it's 99 cents in USD. In addition, we've just published the newest version, the latest edition of Travel Magic. We did a soft launch last year, but there were some things we needed to rework in the editing. That's been taken care of now, thanks to the magic of Reverend Don. And his hard work on that, as well as Lisa McSherry taking a look at it herself and helping out a lot with getting the margins right and things like that. Now that it's ready, we want to relaunch it. And we have the ebook available as well for €9.95, $9.99 American. And the Travel Magic paperback book is available for $19.99 now in USD. So be sure to check that out and order it. It's available on Amazon, or it might be within the next few hours. It's being reviewed. But yeah, I'm really excited about this book because I edited it myself. And it was a fun one to do. And Reverend Don, you did the proofreading on it as well.
Yes.
And the layout. And it's really just turned into a perfect, beautiful little book about using magic to guide your travels. And not just magic, but also pagan ethics, how to travel, like it says on the screen here, how to travel consciously and magically, so that you are able to connect with people from other cultures. You're able to treat the earth with respect when you travel. All of those little details that just kind of make it more than just a spell book. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And then we have as well the lessons for the first degree entire book is now available as an ebook. So you can check that out for $9.99 on both Amazon and CorrellianPublishing.com. We also published last week, well, we didn't publish it, we did an update to it for this 40 Spells to Better Magic by Ed the Pagan Hubbard. It's available for $9.99 now for paperback, and I think it's 99 cents for the ebook version. So you can save a lot of money and be kind to the environment as well, and choose that ebook option if you'd like. And yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about your newest book that's coming available in March, the Book of Astrology. So what do you plan on covering in this book, Reverend Don?
Well, the Book of Astrology is basically meant to be how to interpret an astrological chart. So it will involve what all of the different planets are, what their different placements mean in terms of sign and house, and then what the different aspects between them mean, which is pretty much what you need to interpret a chart. People who are not deeply familiar with astrology mostly only know their sun sign, but it's only a small part of a chart. And so this will take you through all the planets. And, you know, I've talked in the past about how My sun sign is Gemini, but historically, people have not usually thought of me in terms of being a Gemini.
Would not have pegged you for a Gemini, no.
And that's probably because I have both Mercury and Venus conjunct in Taurus, which really holds down those energies and gives a lot of earthiness to my chart. But and that's the kind of thing the book will tell you how to interpret. It well, you can see right on the front is actually an example of the placement of my own planets, and the way that that they are positioned tells you how they're going to interact. And we'll go through the different aspects. We'll go through through all of those different things to let you know how to interpret your own chart. And I think people will find it very helpful.
Yeah, this is something that I definitely would have found helpful last year. A friend of mine contacted me, and I haven't looked at astrology in detail for years.
Mm-hmm.
But she asked me to take a look at her relationship chart between her and her partner. And it took me hours and hours of research to find the right information to give her. Simply because it's, I didn't have astrology books here anymore. All of my books were in America, and I sold them or gave away most of them before I moved here. So yeah, if I had had this book then, that would have been very, very helpful.
Yes, indeed, and that's exactly the kind of thing it's for. I think the best thing that has happened to astrology in my lifetime is the advent of the computer. Where you don't have to do all the math to lay out the chart. You can put it in, it'll tell you where things go, but then you still have to interpret them. Or someone has to interpret them. And that's where the art really lies, because figuring out where the planets are is just mathematics. That's, of course, an art in its own way. But the purpose of astrology is to understand what that placement means. And that's what this book is about.
Definitely will be one that I'm going to add to my collection personally, because I really needed to have that on hand, so the next time someone asks me for an interpretation, I can properly give it to them. Then we also have the Book of the Dead, which we have just updated on both the website as well as Amazon, and I do believe we have an ebook version as well for this one. But you can find both the paperback and the ebook. And yeah, tell us, this one I had a lot of fun with editing it for you, and just kind of, especially the little bitty details about what it's like to grow up as a Correllian. Was particularly fascinating because, of course, I didn't grow up as a Correllian, so it was interesting to see the differences and maybe like things that I missed out on because I didn't have that upbringing, but that are it's still shared with the tradition through your stories.
Yeah, we talk a little bit about those details, particularly regarding the ancestors, which of course the Book of the Dead is particularly connected with, and how to how we worked with them then, how to work with them now. The book, I probably could have included more stories, but they'll be in other places. But we talked about what happens when we die, what happens to spirits, how someone can be caught between the worlds and become a ghost, and how that isn't necessarily all of their energy. They can largely cross over and still be partly caught, which is one of the reasons that doing what we sometimes call karmic disentanglement through shadow work, it can be important, because for some people, yeah, they're living this next life, but part of them is still stuck in the old one. Yeah. For a lot of people, a lot of parts are stuck in a number of places. So we talk about that. We talk about how to cross the spirit over and why that's important, how to receive messages from spirits, how to honor the ancestors. We talk about formal Correllian funerals, and ancestor rites in general. And of course, we also talk toward the end about conscious incarnation and what that's about and what that means. So there's a lot in the book.
Yeah, the conscious incarnation was the part that really fascinated me the most. I'm turning 40 this year, and so contemplating my own mortality has been more of a thing than usual. And it'll just get even increase even more as I get older. And I found it quite interesting to see how you could plan
Mhm.
your next life, plan for a reincarnation, and prepare for that while you're still in this life. Could you speak a little bit more about the conscious reincarnation?
But conscious reincarnation is the idea that people who are at a certain level of skill um, can plan their next incarnation to come back and continue the work that they've been doing in this life. Um, it can be done just by the individual. It's helpful if there are other people involved to maintain communication with their spirit once they've crossed. Um, and when you have been a conscious incarnate, there are a number of pros and cons that I think we're still becoming aware of. Um, the pros include a very early start in life, remembering things fairly easily. Um, Sometimes you remember things from the previous lives, sometimes you just remember the skills from those lives, but you still can pick up the work that you were doing. And as you go forward, those memories will come to you, um, even if they're not always there from birth. The
Yeah.
cons include the fact that you may find yourself feeling older than you really are, um, and that you don't start off fresh the way that we often do. So it is something that we have to learn to do better as we go. And I believe that not that far in the future, this will be something most spiritual people may be doing. Um, Currently, it's a relatively small number.
Yeah.
And of course, this is along the same lines of the Tibetan tulkus, and it is an idea that has been prominent in Western metaphysics for at least 100 years. But I don't know anyone other than us who is consciously practicing it, which doesn't mean they're not. I just am not aware of them. And it also talks about in the book how to recognize a conscious incarnate. Um, and I think we talk about we talk about all of these different aspects of it, and it is very useful, but it also does come with its challenges. And so, while I think that we'll come to the point that most people are doing it, um, I think we also have to find ways to balance that energy so that we're not just continuing the past life, but also enjoying this one.
Yeah.
And
Great.
what I've found with conscious incarnates is that they're often very focused on their work, um, and sometimes in ways that detract from the present life. And we want to say hello to Reverend Eric in the
Yeah.
chat room. It's
Hi,
good to see you,
Reverend
Eric.
Eric. Yes. Yeah, that part was actually really fascinating for me as a Correllian because, of course, my first thought was, well, is beloved Lady Leveda back? Is she a conscious incarnate now? Did she plan for that? Did Lady Benderwin plan for that? Did Lady Wendy plan for that? Are there any Correllian conscious incarnates, or at least ones that planned to consciously incarnate, that you're aware of?
Oh yes. And one of the complications there that we also talk about in this book is that as souls go, they also divide, so that there can be one ancestor with multiple reincarnations. Um, and yes, I'm aware of both Mabel having at least 2 conscious incarnations that I know of, and my mother Leveda having at least one, who is currently a child. And I think that's fairly well known within the Correllian tradition, but because she's a child, I'm not going to say it. But we have those. We've had a number over the years that we were pretty sure of who they were. Dolly, who doesn't get talked about as much as some of the ancestors because she died relatively young. She's had a couple of different conscious incarnates now. One of the things
And
that's
your sister, is that correct?
No, my great aunt. It was Mabel's sister.
Mabel's sister, okay.
And we talk about my sister's conscious incarnation in the book.
Yeah.
Because at a fairly early age, it was decided that was me. And I still remember many of the aspects of that. I was not exactly part of the conversation or conversations around that, but I was within hearing distance of a number of them. And one of the things that changed was how the family honored her spirit when they felt that she had returned. And it was interesting. And I want to say it was probably around 4 at that time. I'm not really sure. It was very early, maybe 5. But, at that point, I can't really be exactly sure what year was which. But up until that time, there had been things done very specifically for my sister as an ancestor that after that ceased to be done, although that's not to say she ceased to be revered as an ancestor. But certain particular rites, which are talked about, I think, in the very first chapter of this book, ceased to be done afterwards. And on the premise that she had in fact returned. And how you deal with different ancestors depends in part on your relationship to them. My mother, having been my sister's mother, obviously did a lot of things to connect with and honor that spirit. And when she felt it had returned, it wasn't that she stopped honoring that spirit, but she became more concerned with the present life at that point. And, the way that we deal with ancestral spirits is not the same for everyone. It depends in part on our relationship to them. When I work with the ancestors, there are particular ancestors that, well, for want of a better way to put it, I think of them as the tradition ancestors and some that are more my personal ancestors. And they're not always the same people. But, and there may be different ways of approaching them. So the world of ancestor veneration is quite broad.
And sometimes I'm asked, as a pagan atheist, how I can be both atheist and still believe in reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
And the honest answer to that is because I have seen enough evidence of it that it at least warrants further investigation. And that's including in my own family. I had a cousin who died when he was 2 years old of brain cancer. And at that time, his mother was pregnant with another child. And that child was born about 6 months after. And there were so many coincidences with him remembering things that his brother had actually done, that it was enough to make the whole family question our sanity for a little bit. So yeah, that was one of those early. And my grandmother, who is Native American, immediately said, "Oh, that's just Cody. He's back." And so yeah, that.
And that's how my family was.
Yeah, and so that right there was like my first realization that it's not everything is not what they say in church, for one. But also there's more there's more mystery out there to investigate in science.
Absolutely. In a recent interview with Sir Edward, Oberon Zell talks about his past life memories as a child, which is quite fascinating to hear. So I recommend that on Pagan World Radio. It was quite a good interview.
And what's also interesting is that when someone receives an organ transplant, you were
Yes.
talking about energy transfer or spiritual energy splitting and dividing.
Hmm.
There's enough evidence for that to also be further investigated, I think,
I have
at
to
least with
agree.
anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it seems that when you get a piece of somebody, you get a piece of them,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
which can be, depending on how you get along with them, it can be good or bad.
Well, hopefully they'll get along better with them, knowing that they're living because this person was an organ donor. So
Yes,
that's always good. So donate your organs, people, if you can. If you can.
if you can.
Yes. And yeah, that's such a fascinating topic for me, and one that you really dive into deeply. Not just the conscious reincarnation, but just reincarnation in general, and how
Hmm.
to notice those signs. I've know of this one story of, he's now a teenager and almost an adult, I think. But when he was very young, 5 or 6 years old, he had these memories
Hmm.
of being an actor in Hollywood, and he had memories of living in a certain house and having a daughter, and all of these things that, like, the mom would write down. And she started investigating and looking, and she finally found um, a picture from an old movie.
Hmm.
And the boy said, yeah, that's me. And he pointed to one of the background actors. And after
Hmm.
further digging and research, she found the daughter of this man still alive, who
Oh
was able to
wow.
confirm a lot of the things that the boy had said about his life.
Oh, that's cool. And
Yeah.
that sort of thing happens a lot more than people realize, especially in other parts of the world where understanding of reincarnation is more common. But even here in the U.S., there are a number of stories like that. I remember visiting a particular house here in, I think it's in southern Illinois where the house is, and I wish I could remember the name of it now, but it was famous for exactly that sort of story. There was a little girl who was telling her parents about her last life and her family, and they happened to be out and see the house, and she said that was my house. And the parents were game enough to stop and talk to the people in the house, although I don't know if it was the first time she said it. And yeah, everything she was saying, they vouched for. This does describe our late mother, our late wife. And she ended up having a lifetime relationship with the family who had been her previous family, as well as her current family. And it's a famous story in the area. And you see quite a bit of this. And then
That's
you
very.
have people who come up with information nobody else could really know. That one of the famous ones, I cannot think of her name off the top of my head, but she was touring a castle in Scotland. I believe it was, I believe it was, well, I think it was Holyrood House, but I'm not certain of it. But as they were going through it, she started to have memories, and she pointed to a particular tapestry and said, there's a door behind there. And the tour guide said, no, no, there's not. I've been here for years. There's no door behind that tapestry. But the tour guide was open enough to move the tapestry and show that there was just a solid wall there. And when they moved the tapestry, no, there was a door. Nobody remembered there was a door. And the lady went on to have a number of memories that she believed came from a lifetime as Mary, Queen of Scots. And it's quite a fascinating story. And sometimes you get that kind of interesting confirmation, as with the children and their past lives also, where there are people who can say, well, yes, that's true. How could you possibly know it? Or with the lady and the doorway, yes, that's true. No one knew that until you pointed it out. Um, and that makes the study of reincarnation very fascinating And we want to say hello to Renee in the chat room. Good to see you,
Hi, Renee. Yeah. That's actually very similar to the story of the little boy that I was talking about. By the time he became a teenager, he actually had forgotten a lot of those memories. And there's videotape because, when he was 5 or 6, he was actually, interviewed for it, and he was on several different TV shows for it. So it's not that he didn't have those memories. He very clearly articulated that on those interviews when he was much younger. But as a teenager, he says he doesn't have those memories anymore. And he says that he believes the reason for that is because he did get teased a lot at school, because he was on television. People call him the ghost boy, or other things, and of course, as children, we can be quite sensitive to that, and so that shut down the memories for him. At least that's his take on it. Why he believes he doesn't remember them anymore. But he also seems kind of grateful for it. Again, he's a teenager, so maybe in 20 years he might think differently and wish he had kept on those to those memories. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how a lot of children who have those memories from a young age, by the time they're teenagers, no longer have them. They've lost them because they didn't develop them or hang on to them or
I think that they would have had to make an effort to hold on to it. One of the things that I was taught is the idea that by the time we hit our teenage years, we're fully into this life, which isn't exactly the same earlier. We move farther on, and we tend to lose that connection if we don't actively maintain it. I think that for we who are spiritual people, if we can teach our children to actively maintain it, they won't have that same effect.
Yeah, it's even talked about in, I think the most cleverest way I've seen is on Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, when they call it the age of not believing.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a very sad age to reach and realize that you're at that, and then it's always very cool afterwards to find out that, hey, there is still magic left in the world. There is still mystery left in the world. There are still things to learn and explore.
That was a great movie.
Yeah.
So we're almost at the end of our half hour. So do you have anything else you want to tell people about?
I do. If you're listening in right now, you can actually order anything on our website for the next 24 hours by using the code Midday5 to get 5% off on your order. So make sure to check that out. That's Midday, all capital letters, 5, the number 5 at the end. I'll go ahead and type that in the chat as well so people have that. And you can visit Correllian Publishing .com as well, so that you can take advantage of that. It doesn't work on Amazon, unfortunately, but feel free to do that on our website. Yeah.
Wonderful. And there we are again. See if I can make this lay straight on my tie. But with that, we have come to the end of our half hour. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to our next one.
Yes, indeed. And Krys will be my guest on Wednesdays from here forward. And we will talk about all the different things happening at Correllian Publishing, which are only going to be increasing.
Yes. One more thing before we go, though. If you are an elder that has wisdom to share and you'd like to publish a book, or you have an idea for a book and need help for it, contact us. That's Correllian.publishing@gmail.com, and we will be happy to work with you.
Wonderful. So let us close with our prayer, as we always do. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. We love having you join us. We love spending this time with you. And Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in this life and all our lives. And we ask you to help us to carry forward the good things of our many incarnations and to add to them with each return. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love and with respect, knowing you're always with us, but from respect, we thank you for your presence, and may be blessed now and always. We thank you for your presence. May you be blessed now and always, and we'll see you tomorrow. And thank you, Krys, for joining us.